Preacher, episode 6, Sundowner. Now, I gotta say, this episode was actually really good. I think this was probably my favorite episode so far because I really loved the opening. I thought it was really great. It was actiony, but mostly it was like a funny opening because we have Jesse and then we have the clones together, and so it starts off where the last episode ended, and it picks right up there like this is what this thing is. We actually find out that this sort of spirit thing is called Genesis, and it's the creation of an angel and a demon having sex together, which it's weird that I've heard that story a bunch of different times, mostly because of Devil May Cry, but it was like, they make this creation and it's a monster, and so we find out that the clones are like its custodians who keep track of it, and somehow it escaped. They don't even know how it escaped, and as they're talking they see this random woman come into the diner, and so they make a little look at her, and I'm like, okay, clearly something's going on. Have the conversation, they go out, they're beating her up, and Jesse pulls them off, and then she's like choking the crap out of them, or out of Jesse and one of the clones, and then they have to go through this entire ordeal through the whole freaking night fighting this clone, and we kind of get a little bit of answer as to how they respond, because it's kind of like it just happens. Like sometimes it's nearby, sometimes it's not. So it's actually very random, and I kind of like that. It's just like it just happens. Sometimes it's really close by. Like with her, sometimes it's in the next room, sometimes it's outside the door, sometimes it's in the closet, sometimes it's in the bathroom, sometimes it's like right behind you in the in the corner of the room. So it was kind of awesome. They're going around, the clones are just getting killed left and right, and just the way they started was like, it might be the towels, and he looks through and he's just like, it's not, and she just like blows his head off with a suppressed revolver. And then they go through this whole ordeal and stuff, and Jesse like kind of takes her on a bit, but she's a bit too tough. So it's like, all right, we can't kill her, we need to restrain her, and it just got crazy. Like they fight through the whole night, and then here comes Cassidy, boom, blows her away, and it's like, you're welcome. And then they keep fighting for a couple more hours, I guess, and it's just really crazy. So I love the opening for sure, and I guess chopping her up kept her from coming back, because I was like, well, if you chopped her up, then she's dead. Because like I disarticulated her or something like that. So I was like, he chopped her up with the chainsaw, then she died. So I don't know how that played out, but I don't know. Maybe it's a weird thing that they can do. But it was definitely a crazy opening, and I certainly enjoyed it. And then we had a lot from Tulip in this episode, where she goes and I don't remember the girl's name, but the woman that works for Jesse, she messes with her, she breaks her kid's thing, and then they end up kind of bonding a little bit. And so she's helping out with the church stuff, and that's how she finds out that Cassidy actually works with Jesse. And he finds out that, Tulip, the tattoo on Jesse's back, that Tulip is the Tulip that he knows. So I was curious, I was like, they aren't going to just, fight over the girl, because that seems kind of simple, like sort of a simple story. And it seemed like he was a little bit hurt, and it sucked to him. But I don't know if that's how it'll play out, but based on the preview, it seems like things will get a bit worse between them. And, of course, with everything that kind of happened with this episode with, and Jesse, that might end up being the case as well. I'm not 100% sure. But I like what they did with Tulip and her kind of working through a couple of things, and Jesse kind of doing the same thing, where he's like, I'm going to keep this. And and that's kind of why I like this episode, because it started off where it was just like, they're going through, everything happens, and he's just like, you know what, I'm keeping this power, and the clones are like, hey, you can't do that, like, that's a terrible idea, this thing is dangerous, and he says, leave me alone. And one thing I really picked up is that, like, the shorter of the two clones, for whatever reason, he's being really nice about it, because the other guy's always like, we'll either sing it out, but the other guy's always like, I'll sing it out, like, it'll come out. And every time it's brought up that they could, like, chop Jesse open, it's like, no, we're not going to do that. So it makes me really curious why. Like, it just makes me wonder, like, how come he's being so lenient about this incredibly dangerous thing? So I feel like there's something to that. I'm not 100% sure, but I was like, he just, they're like polar opposites. Like, the one guy just keeps saying, like, well, if this doesn't work, we can just, hack him open, chop, get the chainsaw back. And the other guy's just constantly like, no, we are not going to do that. So it definitely caught my attention, because they said it like 3 or 4 different times. It was like, that's not going to happen. We're not going to do that. I'm going to sing it out. It'll be really simple. we'll let him figure this out, and that's it. Even when he says, like, leave me alone, or stay away from me, and he takes off, he was still super calm after that. Especially considering everything they'd just gone through, and Jesse's still just like, whatever, I'm keeping the power. He was super calm. He wasn't, they were both fairly calm, but he was still on the side of, we'll let him figure it out, and I don't know, maybe he thinks someone would just eventually kill Jesse. So I don't really know, but it had me pretty curious. And then we go through, and Eugene got a lot of time in this episode, and it starts off with him at school, and some, this random kid's like, hey, Eugene, and the first thing he says is sorry, and then he realizes the kid was just like, hey. And I was glad it played out the way that it did, initially, until the actual very end of the episode. But I was like, he actually has a pretty nice story, because of course the whole time I was like, I hope these kids aren't, tricking him or anything, and of course it's like, oh, let's trespass into, like, the secret, really dark tunnel, but they're actually cool. It was just like, hey, whatever, let's hang out. So I was like, okay, he has a very interesting story, and things are turning around after what happened with the girl's mother. And I was surprised that he even had an issue, because of course at the end, after everything Jesse went through, and we have him and Cassidy kind of talking, and Cassidy's trying to say, like, hey, this is clearly dangerous. You got clones and angel clones coming after you. You probably should give this up, and he's not. And it's like, they have this scene where he's just like nailing something, and it's like, there's asking for trouble, and then there's begging for trouble, and then we find out in a later scene that what he was like hammering to the church was a speakerphone, because he's going to try to basically amplify his power to just everyone across the board. And so we have kind of the culmination of this at the end, where it's like everybody's waiting outside. I kind of have this power, which he still believes, it's not God. He realizes that, but he still believes that it's God's will, or it's God's plan for him to have this power and to make people basically do the right thing. And so when Eugene comes in and they're talking and everything, he realizes, like, man, I helped you out. And Jesse was kind of getting really pissed off, like, I helped you out and you wanted this to happen. And I was still very surprised that Eugene was like, I don't want it to be this way. And he's just telling him, and as they go through, Jesse's just like, look, it already happened. That's pretty much how it's going to be. I'm going to go help everybody else, and I'm going to make them do the right thing. And then it's like, they're having, I see, a very deep conversation, like how that's not right to force people to do the right thing, because they're not really following God's plan or doing what God would want them to do. They're doing what you would want them to do. And they're going back and forth, and Eugene's, yelling at him. And then I couldn't believe it. When he said it even happened. But he just yells. He's like, "Go to hell, Eugene!" And you just hear the noise behind him, and you kind of see the the orange a little bit. And then he turns around, and he's just gone. And it blew my mind that it even happened, because I thought he was supposed to be like a main character. Maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll just shout it out, and it'll happen, and he won't be in hell anymore. But I thought that was the craziest ending ever. Like, he actually said it, and he just, poof, a portal opens up, and he was sucked to hell. At first, when the sound effect first happened, I literally thought he just exploded, and he was going to go to hell that way. But it was like the fire, and he just vanishes, and it's like, I can't believe that just happened. So I really can't wait for this next episode. We have, I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, it seems like he's becoming more and more controlled by this power, and it seems like one of those things, the more you use it, the worse it gets, sort of deals. So that in itself, of course, is really bad, and that's dangerous. And then, of course, he sent someone to hell, literally. And, considering what he did at the end of this episode, he might not actually go through with his plan in the next episode, where he's going to just say, like, do good, or whatever he planned on doing. So that might not actually happen, because he'll probably freak out and realize, oh, probably shouldn't use this power. But I don't know. I'm very excited to see what they do with the next one. And then, of course, we still have the mayor in Kincannon, and the whole episode is the mayor just dealing with, like, he's listening to these voicemails and stuff, and it's like, I don't know what to do, because we kind of need this town. We need Kincannon. I mean, I don't know why. Well, I guess it's his money, so it's not like anyone could just take over. But it's like, we need Kincannon to basically save this town, for it to survive, because it's the industry, within the city. And the whole episode, the mayor's kind of just stuck. It's like, I saw these people get like blown away in this in the last episode. I don't know what to do. I'm avoiding phone calls from all their people, and then he when he talks to Jesse, is like, what if doing the right thing is actually worse, which I would assume turning in Kincannon, which would wipe out the entire industry in the city, and so many people lose their jobs. Basically, the entire city would kind of crumble at that point. So it was just crazy, and he had to deal with that. And ultimately, he decided to do the wrong thing for the reason of saving basically the entire town and not having everyone to be uprooted and stuff. And it was just crazy. And I don't know. I guess I guess he torched the car, or had someone else torch the car, or whatever, to burn up the bodies and everything. But it was just a crazy ending, and what he's gonna have to deal with. And Kincannon is actually gonna be in the next episode, where he's like, "Oh, I did a bad thing," and of course, I'm curious how that's supposed to play out, because, like I said before, all he said was serve God, and somehow that translated down to blow these people away with shotguns. I don't know where he was at in the middle on that, and how he got served God, but I don't know. I guess he was like, well, God did raptures, I'll do shotguns. But this was a really good episode. I certainly enjoyed it for the comedy it had, especially in the beginning, and just the ending. I thought is the best, like just the craziest ending we've had. I'd say personally. I mean, I thought it was a cool ending when Tulip found out Cassidy was a vampire, and then it's like, this just blows that away. Like Jesse just literally sent somebody to hell, and he may or may not be able to bring him back, and that's a big thing with his dad looking for him in the next episode, which he'll probably come to what I think is the obvious solution early on, is that someone like killed his son, because that's the whole series. That's pretty much what it's been, is people calling his son an it, and calling him a murderer and a monster, and saying like, oh, finish the job and kill yourself. So I feel like he'll be driven to that solution very fast, and Jesse will probably use his power to try to make up for it and be like, hey, maybe forget your son, or I don't know if he'd say that, because that would be too obvious, like forget your son, and then everyone else in town is like, sorry, your boy's missing. He's like, what son or what boy? So maybe not that route, because that's a bit too far, but something vague, like calm down, or something like things will work out, so relax. And it just, I don't know, I just don't think it'll play out right. I mean, this is the craziest thing that's happened so far, as far as Jesse actually using his powers, at least. And I don't really know what to think. I still loved it. I thought it was like the greatest ending ever. It was just, I didn't expect it. I mean, I knew he was getting angry and stuff, but I just didn't see that one coming. And even in the promo they do it, and they could have edited this together, but they have it where Jesse's like, oh, I didn't actually see him, and they show the woman next to him, or it seemed like she was next to him the way they cut up the promo, where she was there when he's talking to Eugene's dad, like, oh, I never saw him. So that, if that was the same scene, she's gonna have something to say about that, and maybe he'll use his power on her, like, forget that I said that, or forget that he even came to the church, or something like that. Who knows? But it's just getting deeper, and that was definitely a really crazy one. So yeah, that was just kind of nuts. It was a great episode. I think this may have actually been sometime last week, actually, but Preacher has been renewed for an extended second season, so that's really good. So if you like the show so far, it has officially been renewed for a second season, and I guess we might only get 10 episodes this season, or around that, kind of the normal slate for first couple of shows, or for the first season. So I would assume extended means they'll probably do like 15 to 22 episode season, like they have for Walking Dead, where they do like longer seasons. So that's really great, because I'm loving the show so far. I think it's been doing really good, and I just can't wait to see what they do. But of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I just want to know, with that ending moment when he literally sent Eugene to hell, what was going through your head? Like, what feelings did you guys have? Were you shocked? I don't see how you could have seen that coming, where he's like, go to hell, and he literally, like, a portal opens up. I wouldn't have expected that. I would have just thought him saying that would have been, he says go to hell, so I'm going to kill myself. And he was already thinking like he'd go to hell anyway, so it would have fit perfectly if it was like that. But this shows his power isn't just like, oh, if I say something like go to hell. it's someone will go and kill themselves to, go to hell or do something wrong to get themselves killed because they believe it'll get them sent to hell. A portal will literally just open up because hell itself apparently responds to his commands, and boom, it'll just suck you right down and you're gone. So it just means like a million different things. There's so many possibilities for where they could go with that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how all of it plays out. Of course, like I said though, I would love to know how you guys felt when that scene happened and just where you think they're going with it as well, and of course what you guys thought about the episode in general. So please comment below and let me know, and thanks for watching.